state, because you have courts telling the legislature and the appropriators how to appropriate. But the court cannot make us write a check. So there's some real legal issues here and dangerous precedents. So I think that's get on the table first of all. The range of this lawsuit, settlement, could go from anywhere from 0 to the 6 districts to the state to $1.3 billion. And we're in a deficit without any of that number. So I'm telling you, no matter what, if there's a settlement against the state and we have to write a check, the checkbook's empty. And that's why we have a constitution crisis. With that said, we are in active negotiation to settle this because we think that's the best way to go. But if we cannot settle it in the right way that we're comfortable with, we'll take this to the Supreme Court. And in the meanwhile, the districts will get 0 money. So that just needs to be said. And the folks that have seen me many times and live in my district know that I consider myself brutally honest and very direct. And sometimes it's a little hard to take, but it allows me to sleep at night, and the people that come to see me and ask questions know they're going to get honest answers. And that's how I live my life. So trust me, I don't like all the answers I receive either, but I like being honest. So that's the best answer I can give to you tonight.
Appreciate that, Representative Rivera.
To answer the question quickly, yes, I do support providing that money, not because it's what the court told us to do, but because it's what the people told us to do. This is you, the voters, that told the legislature this is where we want our money to go. So I think there's a couple of statements that we've heard that I think we need to counter a couple of times. One, the court's telling the legislature what to do. This is not the court telling the legislature what to do or how to spend the money. This is the court reminding the legislature that the people told you what to do and the people told you where to spend that money. That's what the court is telling us. It's not the court forcing us to do anything. It is you, the voters, and you, the voters, when you adopted Prop 301, you told us where you wanted us to invest your money, and we didn't do that for the legislature. Then another thing, the precedence about the and versus or. I appreciate that because it's an interesting argument, and it's a complicated one, and it confuses people. And I think a lot of times I think that's the intent. But in reality, I think there's another precedent that's even more important than the clouding and versus or. And that precedent, again, is not doing what the voters' intent was. The voters' intent in Prop 301 was and. That's very clear. That's what the voters wanted. In fact, the state's own lawyers, the lawyers that represent the Republican members of this panel, they agreed in that lawsuit that and or was not an issue to be debated because
I do disagree with that strongly, so you know, sir. Strongly.
So that issue is not before the court. I mean, you can disagree if you want, but it's not before the court because the lawyers didn't put that before the court. So at the end of the day, it's very simple. The people wanted us to invest in our schools. We did not do that. Now we're at a situation where the court is telling us that, reminding us that this is what the people wanted us to do. And so we have an opportunity now to settle. And again, we had the opportunity to settle, and the state chose not to. So the members that are fighting this issue chose not to settle. But that settlement was on the table. There was a settlement on the table. This appeal that's moving forward is just a delay tactic so that we do not have to give that money back to our public schools. And I've heard that come straight from the president's mouth. I was meeting with him this morning, and he said we're going to delay this until next year and deal with it next year's budget. And that's the whole process of the appeal. But at the end of the day, this is a losing battle. It's very clear that this is what the voters' intent was, and it's very clear that we are going to have to invest at least some of this money, and the parties are willing to settle. And my hope is that those negotiations are very cordial and that they do work together to reach some sort of settlement, because a settlement is reasonable. I mean, it is reasonable for us to say, even though we are owed this much money, it's reasonable for us to settle for a lower amount. And I think that the schools and the districts and the plaintiffs in the lawsuit are willing to do that if they're able to come to a reasonable